What's really going on in the house across the street? It's a question that sounds simple, right? But it's the start of a seriously chilling viral horror story. So today, we're going to break down the whole disturbing mystery of Day 13. You know, it always starts with something small, doesn't it? A flicker of light in a house that's supposed to be empty. That one little moment of curiosity is all it takes to start a spiral into a terrifying obsession. It really proves that sometimes the absolute worst secrets are hiding right out in the open. All right, let's dive into the setup. We've got our main character, a teenager who thinks he's just stumbled into a bit of freedom, but his attention gets snagged by something way more sinister, and it's happening literally right across the street. So, let's meet our guy, Colton. His mom takes off for Barcelona for a good 16 days, and suddenly he's the man of the house, in charge of his little sister, Rachel. It's a classic setup, a teen with the whole place to himself. But trust me, this is not going to be a 16-day party. Right away, his focus is completely hijacked by the house across the street, a place that's been vacant for as long as he can remember. Only now it looks like someone, or maybe something, has decided to move in, all quiet in the middle of the night.
Okay, so this is where things get intense. What starts as just being a nosy neighbor quickly blows up into this frantic one-man mission because Colton gets it in his head that his new neighbor is in some serious trouble.
So Colton finally meets the new girl, Heather. She seems nice, his age, but also completely terrified. And her guardian, this super old, super strict guy named Magnus, he barely lets her out of the house. And the entire vibe is just wrong. All the red flags are flying. So what do? Well, if you're Colton, you go full-on amateur spy. He drops over $600 on a whole surveillance rig, gets cameras pointed at that house from every angle, and just watches day and night. He's dead set on getting proof that something awful is happening to Heather. And the stuff he catches on camera? Yikes. It's way worse than he thought. He sees Magnus doing these bizarre, almost ritualistic things. It totally confirms his fear that Heather's basically a prisoner. So he decides he can't just watch anymore. He manages to sneak her a burner phone, creating this secret, desperate lifeline between them. Now you're probably thinking this is just a creepy neighbor story, right? Well, think again. The more Colton digs, the more he realizes this isn't just about abuse. To figure out what's really going on, he's going to look into the dark past of the house itself. Colton starts doing some research and finds this completely chilling piece of local history. Back in 1951, a massive fire just wiped the entire neighborhood off the map. Every single house was burned to a crisp, except for one. You guessed it, the house Magnus and Heather are in now. I mean, how is that even possible? He's desperate for answers, so he gets in touch with a retired police officer. And this cop brings up this weird ghost from the past, the satanic panic of the 80s. That time when everybody was convinced there were devil-worshipping cults everywhere, even though most of it turned out to be nothing. But the officer just blows him off, pretty much chalks it all up to paranoia. He tells Colton to just mind his own business. And that just leaves our guy totally on his own. So you have to wonder, right? Is Colton actually seeing something evil? Or is he just getting swept up in his own version of that hysteria? But then, he finds it. The smoking gun. An old directory that links the name Magnus Torvald to that same house for over 70 years. Wait, 70? How can this ancient-looking guy today have been tied to that house 7 decades ago? Okay, this is way beyond simple paranoia now. All right, so the cops aren't going to help, and time is definitely running out. Colton realizes it's all on his shoulders. If Heather is going to be saved, he's the one who's going to have to do it. His first try is a total disaster. He breaks into the house trying to get that final piece of evidence, but Magnus catches him. Colton just barely manages to get away, but now the stakes are through the roof. Magnus knows he's being watched. Now he's convinced that Magnus is going to kill Heather to cover everything up. So he grabs his friend Mike and they decide to launch one last desperate rescue mission. This isn't about cameras anymore. This is a full-on assault to get her out of there before it's too late. And the confrontation is pure chaos. Magnus comes charging out, swinging an axe, screaming that he's going to kill them. This is it. This violent, terrifying attack seems to confirm every single one of Colton's worst fears about this guy. But, and this was smart, Colton had a backup plan. He'd already called the police.
They swarm the place just in time, tackle Magnus, and get Heather out. It really seems like the perfect victory. The monster's caught, the girl is safe, and our hero saved the day.
But come on, this is a horror story. And the real horror? It's actually just getting started. Turns out the monster wasn't who everybody thought he was. So Magnus is in police custody, the nightmare's over, the bad guy has been stopped, right? Oh, this is the part where the entire story just gets completely turned on its head. You are not ready for this. Because the threat was never Magnus. Colton thought he was saving a poor, abused girl, but the real threat was Heather. She wasn't a prisoner. She was a powerful, ancient demon that was just wearing a little girl's body like a costume. From inside his jail cell, Magnus finally tells the whole horrifying story. He wasn't an abuser. He was an exorcist, and all those bizarre rituals Colton saw on camera, they weren't acts of worship. They were part of a long ceremony to weaken the demon and banish it back to hell. And here is the absolute worst part. The whole thing was a 13-day ritual. And when did Colton stage his big rescue? On day 13, the final day. He didn't save a victim. He interrupted a containment ritual moments before it was finished and unleashed this ancient evil onto the world. And where did that demon go, you ask? Well, in the very last scene, Colton finds his little sister, Rachel. Except it's not really Rachel anymore. She looks up at him with this chilling smile and says she's hungry. And suddenly, all those missing pets from the neighborhood make a horrifying kind of sense. The evil wasn't stopped, it just moved across the street. And that leaves us with one terrifying question. What happens on day 14?